All right. It's 7 o'clock now. We call the meeting to order. This is the May 16th, 2017 meeting of the Village of Oxford Planning Commission. As we do with all of our meetings, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd stand and please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so, Madam Secretary, if you'd be kind enough to call the roll, please.
Chair and Commissioners, I'd like to introduce to our newest Planning Commission Commissioner, our newest Commissioner, Russell Gill.
Good. Russ, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you on board.
Thank
He
you.
has been sworn in, and he was appointed by the Village Council at the May 9, 2017 meeting,
Good.
upon your Planning Commission recommendation.
Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, or Madam President, thank you very much for that. So we don't need to take any action on that then? He's duly sworn in and seated, and we don't have to swear him in, or we don't have to pull any pranks on him or anything like that?
Well, we can do that later.
All right, good. Because there is some hazing, as I recall.
Yeah, I think there
I know
is.
I had to go through some substantial hazing to get my seat on this board. All right, good. Roll call, please, Madam Secretary, if you'd be so kind.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Curtis.
Here.
Commissioner Deeg.
Here.
Commissioner Bama.
Here.
Chair Douglas.
Here.
Commissioner Helmut.
Yes.
And Commissioner Gill.
Here.
Yes. Good job, Russ. Welcome aboard, buddy.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you. All right, after roll call, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for this evening's meeting unless there are any changes.
I'd like to make a change to the agenda, and that's to switch 9A with all of 10. So I'd like to do new business before old business, as we have two applicants here, and the signage may take some time.
Good. All right,
So with that,
go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda as presented for the regular Planning Commission meeting of Tuesday, May 16th, 2017.
Second.
All right, Madam Secretary, I have a motion on the table from Commissioner Curtis and a second from Commissioner Helmuth. Any other comment on that or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Good, our agenda is amended. So we'll swap number 10 and number 9. All right, so I would then ask for a motion to approve tonight's agenda as stated, as amended.
Oh, we just did that.
We just did that.
Did that serve as approval of the agenda otherwise? All right, you're wrapping them all up. I can understand that. All right. Now, approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of May 2nd. I'll accept a motion for that.
So moved.
All right. Any second?
Support.
All right, Madam Secretary, I have a motion again on the table from Commissioner Curtis to approve the minutes from the May 2nd meeting of this year, 2017, and a motion seconded by Commissioner Helmuth. No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Good. Minutes are approved. We will not receive or file any correspondence. As I signify on my agenda, there is none. We are not having a public hearing tonight, so we move on to item 8 for presentations, and I don't believe there are any presentations tonight. Chris, do you have anything to present tonight in that regard? Good. All right, no presentations. Moving on then to item 10, which is new business now. Our first order of business is the Scripter Court site plan review. And Chris, with that, I'll turn it over to you if you have a...
Sure. I'll give a brief introduction to the project, and then we turn to the applicant, and then I'll do my review.
Thank you very much.
Great. By way of introduction, the proposal is for a new residential development known as Scripter Court, which would involve 16 single-family lots in a site condominium on the property currently known as 98 Glassby, which contains a vacant industrial structure. Site is zoned R1. The approval in front of you tonight is a site plan approval, which is the only zoning approval that this project needs because it is a by right use.
Say that last part again, Chris.
This is the only approval needed for this project at this point.
This site plan review right here.
Site plan.
Are you saying this or the package that I have?
The package that you have.
Okay, good, thank you.
I think Mr. Sharp can speak to what he just passed out, but my understanding is it's just a color version of what you've already received.
That's correct.
So just to clarify, your vote tonight If approved, this would not come back to this commission. It would go to the reviewers, myself, the engineer, DPW, fire, et cetera, to clear out the conditions before building permits are issued.
All right, so if you would be kind enough to state your name and your address for the record, please.
Sure, my name is Jim Sharp.
Once again.
Jim Sharp, Sharp Engineering, 1750 Lakesview, Oxford, Michigan. It's the address of the business.
Thank you.
We're the civil engineers for the project. And with me tonight is Lisa Shackleton from Clearview Homes as well. We're just here asking for the site plan approval for 16 residential lots. This is proposed as a condominium development. We did present the plans along with a draft copy of the master deeds and bylaws. I was prepared tonight to do a presentation, but apparently the projector that is normally here is in use by another entity. So that's why I just have these color versions for you to look at tonight. We have met with the with the fire chief, the DPW director, and to our knowledge, we've addressed all of their comments. We did receive comments back from Mr. Corey's office and from the engineer's office as well. And again, we think that we have a very good plan here. There's, believe it or not, is a plan coming before you that doesn't need PUD approvals and public hearings and all that type of stuff. It's pretty cut and dry. We're meeting the zoning, we're meeting all of the ordinance requirements, all the setback requirements, and so forth. So we're here seeking your approval for that. Again, it consists of 16 residential homes. There'll be a public sanitary sewer that we're connecting into on Scripter. There'll be a water main on the street. There is in order to accommodate the storm sewer, we're looking to take that stormwater detention to the pond to the north. So there will be an easement that is necessary on the Scripter Park property that is owned by the village. That was the same scenario that we had proposed with the previous developer for this project. So hopefully you find that satisfactory as well. And again, really the only outstanding issues were that we wanted to see some possible renderings or what the product may look like. What you see on here with these 16 units is simply just a placeholder. These are not going to be square homes by any means. They're going to be nicely constructed homes by Clearview with two-car garages and things like that. Do you want to? I'll let Lisa come up real quick and she can present the.
So Jim, just a couple of questions if you don't mind.
Sure.
Lisa, if you don't mind, before you continue. These are single-family homes, correct?
Correct.
And they are detached.
Correct.
So they're not brownstones or face side to side or anything like that. These
They
are
look
all
very
detached.
very similar to what is across the street on Gillespie right now.
Okay, I see. And so you mentioned that this has already been reviewed by the fire department, the DPW, our planner, and also our engineer. And is the package that I have here now in front of me, it has incorporated all of the comments and questions and concerns that they had?
It has. And
So
we
what we're
have-
getting is basically a final draft.
Correct. And we have emails back from them and correspondence back from them saying that they, have no objections to what's being proposed.
Okay. The other question I have, if you don't mind, is I know the fire chief had a concern about the concept of a cul-de-sac at the end of the court. And what you show here is a T turnaround.
Correct.
And I know I'm not really sure what exactly the legal definition of a cul-de-sac is, but I just wanted to confirm that this is acceptable with the fire department and that fire engines or fire trucks can make a turnaround in this T as opposed to having a round cul-de-sac.
We had a subsequent meeting after the first round of reviews at which the chief was at, and he may want to come up and address it himself, just so I'm not putting words into his mouth. But the plan that you have in front of you was acceptable to him. The cul-de-sac was discussed, but even with a cul-de-sac option, which is, a big circle at the end of it, he indicated that his main apparatus, his fire apparatus, would still need to be backed up out on to Gillespie anyway, that they generally can't accommodate that. It would have accommodated, say, an ambulance, but the T turnaround, in his opinion, the way that we have it designed, would be sufficient to that. So with that, it may be the chief.
Chief, would you be kind enough to speak to that for just a moment?
Sure. Yeah, that's right.
Chief Schultz, Oxford Fire Department. An ideal situation, a cul-de-sac would be nice, a lot more room to turn around, but in this piece of property, as tight as it is, there's no room to put a cul-de-sac in. Also, the entire street is only, 500 feet long from end to finish. In the event of a fire, we're not driving right to the very end anyhow. We're going to be stopping a couple houses short of the end house. You know, we have 200-foot hoses on the truck and everything, so we wouldn't be going right to the end anyhow. So for a fire truck, it's just as easy to back out of there. We do it any other place on a road anyhow. When we're fighting a fire, we end up having to back out of most of the places.
Okay.
Ambulance-wise, we can turn around in the T or hammerhead, what it's also called, and/or we can turn around in the driveways with the ambulance. The DPW, Don Brantley, supervisor, was at that pre-conference meeting that we had, and he felt the same way, that it was, sufficient to go that route.
Good, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Fire hydrants are located on this court as well?
Yes, there's one at the end on the north side of the street, and there's one out on Glasgow Street, just to the north of the street.
Good, okay, thank you very much.
And we did indicate that there, I forget which side of the street, I think it may have been the north side of the street, because that's where the fire hydrant is, that will be posted as no parking. as
Okay,
well,
good.
So that the street's not too jammed up and he can always get emergency vehicles down there.
Street parking allowed on this street?
One side only.
One side only. Is it indicated as such when you're there?
There'll be signs.
Good.
That was my question.
Thank you, Chief, I appreciate it. Commissioners, please, any other questions? Chime right in.
Okay. I have two. Existing water service to be removed and water main capped. Is that just for demolition through construction? Because on your plan, it shows you're going to capitalize with the existing water tap.
Those are for the existing building that's there.
You're going to just stop it, cap it, then when you start developing, you'll run the new water line in.
We'll run the new water line, yeah. That's just basically going to turn it off at the shut-off box and cap it there. That was the request of Mr. Brantley.
Same with the sewer lead.
Yep, same thing. It'll be capped at the end or bulkheaded some way.
And then Don's comment of the cul-de-sac, that's taken out, so.
Correct.
That's, the other question I had was, being in the surrounding community and working with this developer, I know the developer has a couple of outstanding ordinance violations for their construction site up at Waterstone. Litter and debris. Do you have an ordinance here about dumpsters on the job site? Knowing what's behind this thing, all this stuff blowing out into the woods. We have one blowing in the undersheriff's yard right now.
Okay, actually, the best person to ask about that is the building official, because it would be under their codes. I do not believe we have anything in zoning, although I could check.
Well, now's the time to think about it, because after you get a call from somebody where it's all in the woods and trying to get it cleaned up, it's a little tough right now. I know that we're going through it right now with 3 of the homes that they're building, and ours requires a dumpster, and the developer puts the garbage in the garage. Well, the garbage is blowing all over everywhere, so I would consider you, or take that under strong advisement to make sure that this litter is contained.
We also don't need to have it in the water.
That's right behind there is that park, and that's what,
I completely agree. I
Okay.
just don't know off the top of my head.
just wanted to bring that up because it is,
What our regulations are, but I
Yep.
completely agree that construction needs to be done in a professional and efficient manner, and that includes taking care of trash.
very good. That's my questions.
All right, other commissioners?
I have a question.
Please, Russ, go right ahead.
Okay, it's more in terms of, I guess, the developer, in the process of demoing the existing structure that's on there, has it been tested for any asbestos, PCBs, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, it's had phase 1 and phase 2.
Okay. Okay, so that was basically, that answers a lot of my other questions here that I had follow-up. I would just like to make a recommendation that anything that is hauled out of there be taken down Drainer, southbound on Glassby to Drainer, and not through the village. my only remark.
Okay?
Right by Adam's house.
Did you say that, Adam?
I would agree with that.
I thought you might. I thought you might. Commissioners? Please.
What are we doing with the storm drain to the pond? Has the DPW looked at your plans there and?
They have, and we discussed that at the meeting as well. And it's all gonna be collected in, storm sewer piping. And then just to the north of the property line, there's a pretreatment that takes out all of the sediment, and silts, and all that type of stuff. And then it runs north into the mill pond and outlets there. There'll be something in the master deed and bylaws that is going to be the responsibility of the association, to operate and maintain. It won't be a burden on the DPW.
We appreciate that.
I believe it may even be called out on one of the notes on the plan, and if not, it has to be because I don't think it's in the master deed and bylaws at this point, but that was just a draft version you received.
And are you doing anything, I noticed there's a fence down along the DPW garage.
Vinyl fence, 6-foot-high vinyl fence.
Are you doing anything on the north side across Scripter Park?
We are not. We figure that people would wanna, it's kinda nice
Watch
to
the
see the
ball
kids
game.
out there, watching the ball game. There's a lot of trees, for the first half of the site.
Right.
So we weren't planning on anything there.
Thank you.
Commissioners? Jim, please continue with.
Really, I'll just here to answer questions. Like I
Yeah, I
say,
wanna
we have
hear
the
from
16
Lisa.
units. I think they're in, it's in good harmony with what's across the street, what's behind it and everything. Like I say, I tried to bring Lisa up earlier to just kind of show the homes, if you just want to come up real quick.
Yeah,
and
Lisa, I'm gonna have you do
describe
that now,
what they're-
please, if you will.
What they're going to look like.
Can I ask one more quick question? Is there intention for all homes to face Scripter and nothing to face Gillespie? Because the two corner lots could face it either
Oh,
house.
no, they'll face each
Okay,
Yeah, they're gonna face our roadway. They will, no driveways off of Scripter.
Thank you.
Or off of Glassby, so.
Yeah, and this is,
Lisa, hold on a second. If you'd be kind enough, take the podium and give me your name and address, please, for the record.
Lisa Shackleton, and I work for Clearview Homes. My address is 49305 Marseille, Macomb, 48044.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so this is just an idea of what we plan on putting in there. This is just the standard house with hardy siding, and then we have upgrades, that allow for stone, brick, there's different phases of it. This particular home's about a 2,300 square foot house. Our intent is to do all front entry, 2-car garages. I don't even think we probably could fit 3-car with the size of those lots, so, like I said, this one's 2,300, we'd probably go 23 up to 28. We have, a couple different, this is just one particular model. We do have a couple of different models, but, basically all the same. The houses will probably run 280 up, depending on, what options they have, inside and outside.
And again, we were just, we were asked to supply the architectural plans. Obviously, we can't supply those at this time because each home may vary slightly depending on what the owners want. And so therefore, we're just kind of giving you the storyboard to give you an idea of what they're looking at. And they're building elsewhere in Oxford Township, in the Willow Lake area and in the Waterstone area. So you can always go look and see some of those homes if you were more curious as to what the final product may look like.
Thank you very much.
Anything else?
Any other questions, commissioners? Adam? No. Russ?
Nope.
Gary? Not at this end? All right.
sidewalks on both sides? It
Sidewalks
looks
on
like.
both sides and at the end to kind of create a loop. That was one of the nice things about this option is it will allow people to access the park directly. That was a recommendation by your planner, whereas with the cul-de-sac option, it would have chopped it off because there would have been a house right at the end of the street to take advantage of that cul-de-sac. so then there wouldn't have been access directly to the park at the end of the street.
Okay. Jim, thank you very much.
Sure.
I appreciate hearing from you.
Here to answer any more questions you guys might have.
Commissioners, any other questions? Any discussion? I would entertain a motion if someone cares to
I'll
take this
make-
under consideration.
I'll make a motion to approve the site plan for 98 South Glassby, single-family development, 16 family homes, meeting and satisfying the Oxford Fire Department letter dated May 10th, 2017, the Oxford DPW letter dated April 21st, 2017 as amended, the Oxford Village Police letter dated April 28th, 2017, the Nowak and Frous engineer letter dated May 2nd, 2017, and the McKenna and Associates letter dated May 9th, 2017. End of motion.
Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, I have a very long-winded motion on the table from my friend Jack Curtis.
I have a
And,
suggestion to make it longer. There's been discussion about construction. I think it would be appropriate to include any specific concerns about construction or demolition or haul routes for demolition materials in this motion.
I'll amend my motion to include that all construction, all phases of demolition and construction, that the debris is contained within the site and removed promptly.
Second that.
All right. Madam Secretary, I have an amended long-winded motion and a prompt second from Commissioner Bama. Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I made a remark about taking the debris and construction vehicles going south on Glassby instead of north. Can that be added?
Commissioner Curtis, do you want to add that to your motion?
I will add to my motion that all debris will be transported south on Glassby and not through the village. Proper.
Commissioner Bama?
Yes.
All right. Madam Secretary, fortunately, it's all on tape.
It is.
I'm really glad for that.
I'm going to write it down and give it to her,
That'll be fine. I appreciate that as well.
because my memory fails me.
Any further discussion? Any comments, commissioners?
Hey,
All right.
Are you guys clear on everything and you're good with everything? I have nothing else.
Thank you, Mo. All right, I have a motion on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Good, that motion carries. Clearview Homes, congratulations, thank you very much. This recommendation will now be passed on to the village council, where they will take it under advisement and give you a final approval.
They don't have to go to village council.
Is that correct?
No,
They
they
administratively do.
they only have to resubmit with the conditions listed so that the various reviewers can sign off.
I stand corrected, and I'm so glad I said that's the thing. I stand corrected. Congratulations, and thank you very much. You bet. All right, now, moving on. Next item on the agenda is item B under new business, which is the 32 East Burdick Building Design Review. And Chris, if you have something you'd like to comment on that?
I have a little more to say on this one. And so I wonder if maybe I should just give you guys an overview of what's going on, and then maybe the developer and architect can present the building, and then I'll walk through my analysis of the building design before we do questions. Is that appropriate, Mr. Chair?
Yes, it is, Chris, and thank you very much for asking.
All right, so slightly odd situation compared to what you guys usually do. As many of you know, 32 East Burdick, 36 East Burdick, and 19 Stanton, along with a joint parking lot for all of them, were approved for a PUD last fall, and also a site plan last fall. PUD, the site plan included it for the buildings at 32 East Burdick and 19 Stanton, simply boxes, basically building envelopes. And the PUD required that before those buildings were built, the Planning Commission had to approve the design of the building. So what you're doing tonight is working within an approved PUD, under an approved site plan, and just analyzing the design of the building and whether it meets the dimensional requirements the form-based code requirements, and any other particular issues that the planning commission may have with the building. So this is a building design approval. That's how the motion should be worded. With that, I'll turn it over to the developer, I suppose, to present the building, and then I'll get into my analysis.
Madam Secretary, do I have anything in my packet in regards to this issue? Yes, I do. Thank you very much.
Dave Weckel, Stefan Hoffman, the architect for this project. Keep going. Go ahead. We had a thumbnail, or thumb drive, whatever it's called, thumb drive presentation, but obviously we don't have a cord to trip over, so we can't do it that way. So we'll have to go to the big drawing when we get to the building itself. Just to give you a little more background, when this was approved last fall, we were going to build 36 East Burdick first, but when we were doing the planning for it, we decided that it was better to build Building B first, which would be out on an island by itself if we did A first. B is the smaller building on the corner of the southwest corner of Burdick and Mill Street, next to this lot. So that's the main reason that we started to go this way. I think I would have a lot of very unhappy people if I had construction materials piled up in the parking lot, especially on overnight and weekends, and if the first building's already done. So now I could use that first area for staging of materials, build the Building B, which is 32 East Burdick, and then switch over to Building A, and then do C at the end. So that was the main driving force. Stefan did a wonderful job on the design. We were limited in what we passed out on colors, but I know everyone has their own large drawing. And he did a great job for a box. Even on the one wall, there was no windows. It looks very nice with inlaid brick and complementing colors. So I'll turn it over to Stefan, and he can answer any of your questions about the design.
Hello, my name is Stefan Hoffman, architect for Jeff Scott Architects. Been working with Dave for a long time. I love this town. I'm very respectful of its history, and I don't think I would have proposed such a modern building if it were up on the front in the main scheme of things. But we're now a little further back, and we're proposing a very modern complex in that corner there. And as much as the history is a huge part of this little community, it also needs to be modern in terms of its services, its government, and eventually this area is going to be sort of the hub of the government of this town. I didn't want to go too far off, but with the materials are very respectful of the brick that's very prominent in this area. The colors are very neutral, and again, like Dave said, it's a box, and we try to decorate a box as best we can and make it interesting. Do we talk about the proposed tenant that might be there?
We don't have any commitments to be talking about.
Okay, so there's a lot of interest already of that built-out office space that's shown on the plans. So it has to address both, the street and the parking lot. So there's two entrances, common corridor or common entrances and an elevator.
Dave, was it always your intention to have this building be two-story?
Yes, originally it was going to be a three-story, and it still could be a three-story, but I haven't had any request for retail, unfortunately. And being a long-time member of DDA in the past, I know the importance of retail, but it just doesn't seem to be coming to Oxford as fast as we'd like to see it. I have good demand for the office space, and I feel comfortable with that. And when we were doing the negotiations on the parking, we fell under the old ordinance, which is still the old ordinance, but even though the new ordinance has been approved at the planning commission level, our parking was calculated on gross space, and we argued that at the time, but the ordinance said it was interpreted in a couple spots to use gross, and we said it's more fair to use net. Well, now the new ordinance does use net. So we could throw another story on there and not really increase the variance or the waiver that was given for parking. Because I think it would only be one condo up there. We have a 60 by 60 building. By the time we do 15-foot setbacks away from the perimeter, we cut it down pretty good. Then you take out your elevator space and you could have one penthouse.
Because that's what I recall, is
Well, the
at least
building
on the
A-
other buildings, you were looking at having
Yes. The other buildings are large
apartments or
enough for
some
3
sort
stories.
of residence on the top floor, and then
Correct.
office space on the second floor, and
That's
then
correct.
retail on the first floor.
That's exactly correct. And I read through the agreement tonight, again, just before I got here, and we did talk about 22 East Burdick just being office. And we had the parking count was going to be, I believe, 112 total if it was retail, I believe, with 3 stories,
Yeah,
and
it was-
114 if it was 2 stories. And so we went for the higher count because we could meet it. And that's how Stefan designed it, is what was approved.
So do you anticipate 1, 2, or 4 tenants in this building?
I anticipate 4.
Okay. Is it conceivable that you could build it out for having 2 tenants?
It's very
Or
conceivable.
3, maybe, you know?
Well,
Or 1.
it could be 1 if the right person or company came into town and wanted it, because it's not that big of a building. It's, it's 36 square, so it's 3,600 times 2 is it's a 7,000 square foot building. So it's not huge.
Sure. It's charming.
Yeah, I think he did a great job on the design and the colors. And we intend to put landscaping around it. That was just an oversight. It's on our approved site plan.
So there's no entrance from the Mill Street side?
That's correct. If we had a tenant that wanted the first floor and wanted another entrance, we'd come back to the planning commission and with amended drawings and request it. That could be a possibility. You know, we had talked about multiple entrances.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If a retail component wanted to
Right.
go in there, it'd be very simple to add doors.
Right. Take a window out, put a door in, basically.
Commissioners, you have questions or comments?
I have none.
Just one quick question. I noticed on the west side elevation, it's all brick. How close is the next building in relation to that?
Next building, I'm not exactly sure, but it's probably about 50 feet
Okay.
to the building itself, but the property line is right there. You know, we're allowed to build on the property line and see one transition.
That's the hair,
That's correct.
Oxford
Jack's
Barber,
Barber
so-
Shop.
yeah.
Still Jack's to me.
Mostly due to the proximity, the wall has to be a fire-rated wall in case the next tenant does want to build up to their property line as well.
Yeah, we would encourage it that they would build to the wall. Otherwise, I'd like to put windows in there, but that would hinder
right.
them, make them stay 10 feet away, or they'd be mad at me. So we complied with what a good neighbor should do.
And there's no awnings, correct?
At this time, there's no awnings. Now, we'll be doing a sign application, and awnings may become part of the sign application.
Is this, does that jut out like,
It's
okay.
a suspended awning, yes.
Yeah, the second story is, you look down over a balcony to see the first floor. It's similar to the Crittenton building, kind of.
Any further questions or comments, commissioners?
And we're still planning on doing the parking situation prior to breaking ground,
No, it's not going to be prior to, it's going to be all at the same time.
same time?
Yeah, I don't know how long Stefan will required to finish these drawings to get a permit. But when I pull the permit for this, I'll be pulling permit for the parking at the same time. Jim Sharp has done all of our engineering, and we've already got our water permit from the state, we've got our soil erosion permit from the county, so now we need a building permit, and we can start.
Plan to put the shovel in the ground.
August, maybe? I'd rather say July, you know.
Any other,
It's a small
go ahead.
Yeah,
Adam, please.
and not to be nitpicky, but just based off our prior agreement, it was, the parking situation was supposed to be addressed prior to breaking ground of any building.
My understanding is that the construction on the parking lot has to begin before construction on any building. I don't think it says it has to be completed. It may be that it's only a matter of minutes, but
Okay.
I would appreciate if
I'm
they,
not gonna-
if they comply.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
I just see prior on here, so I just wanted to address that.
Actually, I don't think either one of those statements are correct, if we would go by the agreement. If I can find it here real quick. I think what it says, is I cannot get a CLO until the parking lot is complete. Oh, here, number 6. All parcels listed as project sites in section 1 that are west of Mill Street shall be combined into a single parcel prior to the issuance of a CLO for any buildings constructed on that land. The new parcel shall have the address 32, and any approval from the relevant bodies, and shall be referred to as 32 East Burdick. We're not there in this agreement. So after, and we do it, part of the approved plan, engineering, that has all the legal descriptions, it's all done already. Yeah.
Jack, please.
So, Mr. Weckel, the agreement would be is parking lot construction will commence east of Mill Street in conjunction with construction beginning on 32 East Burdick?
Correct.
Yeah, Mr. Weckel is correct that the restriction is a certificate of occupancy. So if the building
Thank you.
does start beforehand and is completed before the parking lot,
I got
it
it.
wouldn't be allowed to get a certificate of occupancy even if it met all inspections until the parking lot is finished. And the reason for that, of course, is because the parking lot is required to meet the parking standard. So, but he's correct, it's a certificate of occupancy that would be held up, not the building.
But what Dave is telling us, he's going to build it in conjunction with the building, so it's done at the same time.
Correct. The only thing I probably will not do is put the final coat on.
Final lay down.
But curbs,
Lift.
sidewalks, obviously the
Sure.
catch basins and storm drains, all that'll be done. The engineering's all done, I've got different contractors quoting it right now.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? All right, I would entertain a motion to,
I'd like to walk through a few things if you don't mind.
Please, Chris.
A lot of this is sort of procedural, but I want to make sure that.
Thank you, Mr. Weckel.
We're acting correctly based on our ordinance, okay?
Good, thank you.
So, just to walk through it, so the PUD agreement requires you to review this against the dimensional standards of C1 Transition District and the form-based code. Dimensional standards of C1 Transition are met. I can go into detail if anyone wants, but I can just leave it at that. Dimensional standards are all set. The form-based code, or I guess I should mention the windowless wall. As mentioned, it comes up to the property line. The idea is the neighbor could come to the property line, build another fire-rated wall, and we could create a street wall like we have on Washington. In terms of the form-based code, form-based code's in a little bit of flux right now, because this body and the village council have both accepted the new form-based code in principle, but the village council still has to do a first and second reading before formally adopting it. That said, I do recommend that you officially use the new form-based code because it's the one that you've identified as what you want to see, and as has the village council, at least informally. So I don't know why we would go backwards. Jack?
Question, your recommendation is we grant a waiver to for the form-based code waiver. Are you
Yes.
changing that now, or?
No, I want to, that's why I want to walk through it.
Okay.
Because I want everyone to understand what it is I'm
Thank you.
recommending and why.
Okay, I'm just
And
trying to add
also,
it
and
on.
also, I think we should get some practice using this process.
Thank you.
This is a new process
Yep.
we just created.
Yep,
So, under the new form-based code, there are 6 requirements for this building. Based on my analysis, it meets 4 of them for sure. One of them I think it meets, and we just need more information. And the other one, in order to build this building, they would require a waiver from the Planning Commission. And I'll get there in a second. The one that we need more information on is the transparency requirement. The first floor must be 70% windows and doors. Looking at it, it looks right to me. But I'd like the percentage reported from the architect, so we have it for sure, and we can say, yes, it meets the standard. So,
I just want to make sure we don't have to count that west wall.
no, not the west wall. It's the only ones facing a public road. So it's actually just the north and the east. The one facing the parking lot doesn't count either. So the one facing Burdick, the one facing Mill. And then the other one is that, sorry. The other one is that there's a requirement that each commercial unit on the first floor have its own entrance. And that is in order to promote retail eventually. But obviously it's designed with a single entrance, and then you enter each unit through that single entrance. Because of that, I've run through the standards for granting a form-based code waiver. Now, the way the ordinance is written, the form-based code waiver process is similar to if you were to waive landscaping requirements, in that it doesn't require a special public hearing or even its own motion, just your approval of the design. But you are supposed to use specific criteria in determining whether to do it. The first one is that, despite not meeting that specific standard, the design clearly meets the purpose and intent of the form-based code to create a historic, charming, walkable, and vibrant village center. I think it does, and you can see my analysis in the letter, having entrances on both Burdick and on the parking lot with that through hallway in between. It's a welcome entrance, it's not a blank wall, it's not an entrance that's only on the parking lot side. It's plenty of welcoming aspects for a pedestrian walking down Burdick to go into one of these businesses, which is to say that if retail was to come into this business, or it was to come into this building at some point, it could function, right? You'd come in through a door and then you'd make an immediate right or left into a retail outlet. That's not the end of the world, that's doable. Certainly, I don't think it's a reasonable of this project. Second one is, it will not create an area where the pedestrian environment is unsafe or unwelcoming. Certainly not, I don't see that as an issue at all. It's not aesthetically incompatible with the surroundings. We had some discussions, and it sounds like everyone is pretty much on board with the overall design and aesthetics. And then finally, that it achieves a goal of the designer that's compatible with the purpose of the form-based code, could not be achieved in compliance with the form-based code standards. Here's where we have, I think, is really the concern, their concern, that I think we need to address, I guess, if it makes any sense, and that is, excuse me, they've got 4 units. If we require them to have separate doors for the 2 lower units, they aren't going to have enough space for a door for the upper units unless it's tiny. Like the ones that you see on Washington that are for the residential, that are it's just a door. And that's not really the type of front door that even an office really wants, right? It's just a blank door in the wall. So in order to create an entrance that befits each of the 4 units they're trying to create, the 2 on the lower floor and then 1 entrance for the upper, they'd have them all squeezed together over a very small stretch to the point where it would be ugly and inefficient and not work out. So for that reason, I am recommending that you waive that form-based code in order to approve the design of the building as presented. I do have a couple of other comments. One we got into with the parking lot, and that sounds like that's been resolved. The second one, 36 East Burdick, the big building that you had approved last year. The PUD agreement says that needs to you need to obtain building permits for that by January 1st, 2018. Are you still on track to do that?
It's possible, but I probably wouldn't push as hard to have that complete.
Because you got this one going. I don't think it's necessary at this time, but in a matter of months, if it seems like you're not going to be able to do it, you will have to come back to this body and the village council to amend the PUD. I don't see that, as long as this 32 building and parking lot are underway. I don't see it as a problem to just rearrange the order, but the text of the agreement says you have to do that. And then landscaping, you guys mentioned briefly, is the small shrubs and flowers that you proposed around the other building. We do need to make sure that those happen on this building as well. All right. Given all that, you can see the conditions listed in my letter, and I am recommending approval. So, sorry for taking up a little extra time there.
That's quite all right, Chris.
I just
Commissioner
have a
Helmut.
quick question, probably for Dave. The elevators on the parking lot side, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure I was looking at the building right, because there's no north arrow.
Chris, I find it somewhat ironic that our first project out of the gate requires a form-based code waiver.
It's a little frustrating.
And I have to say that it's just the way things go, isn't it? This is an aside and won't impact my decision on this project at all, but do we need to revisit our form-based code to take this concept into consideration?
I don't think so. I think that's first off is the reason for having a waiver process. Under the old ordinance, they would be forced to go to the ZBA and talk about this, which I don't think is necessary. And the form-based code is designed to promote retail storefronts along Burdick and Washington. And this one, while not a retail storefront with its own entrance, is not so far off. Those 2 units on the first floor could easily be used for retail. They could be retrofitted for retail, as mentioned. They could be retrofitted to have their own door at some point. But I'm not sure it's necessary to force the architect to do some difficult maneuvering in what is a nice-looking building, just so we can say our first form-based code approval with the new ordinance was as clean as it could be.
All right. Do you have anything else, Chris?
No.
Would you recommend then that the motion that's tendered would consider your recommendation points 1 and 2?
Already got it.
All right, good. Looks like there's 3 and 4 also as well.
Yes.
We have 5 now, according to my compatriot here. All right.
Well,
I have one more question.
Okay, go ahead, Mo.
Do you have any ideas for signage for this building? Like what a plan would be?
Well, I don't want to have anything on the ground. I'd like to have building signs. So I haven't really looked at the elevation to see where they'd be appropriate.
There's no signs on the roof, Dave.
Because there's not a lot
And
of,
now we're 14 feet high.
We can't have signs on the roof, heaven knows.
Okay.
because if you have a business upstairs and a business downstairs, which is 4 businesses, there's not a lot of brick to put the sign.
That's a good point. It's worth noting that, in my opinion, as designed, this building would fall under the requirement that all signage be applied for by the landlord, because it's an office building and individual tenants would not have a clear storefront area that would belong just to them. So Dave probably should be thinking about what he wants to do with
I would
signage.
rather apply for it anyway because the tenants typically
Screw it up.
want to say that they don't consider the code.
How much
That's what
signage
Chuck
would he
does
be?
that way. He owns the actual sign that says, here's your space. Put your sign on this space.
Dave, have you thought about how you're going to identify this building?
I was gonna just use an address, 32, we get 32 up on the top.
Up on the roof, right?
Yeah.
Thanks, yeah, right.
You ready?
So it is a good question.
Neon, right?
Yeah.
He'd be permitted 1 square foot of signage for each linear foot of building frontage, which I believe is 60
It's
feet.
60.
So 60 square feet of signage per, 60 square feet on Burdick, 60 on Mill, 60 on the parking lot. Total between all your tenants.
Ready?
Yes. All right, any other comments or questions, commissioners? All right, I would happy to entertain a motion in regards to this.
I'll have this for you too, Susan.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to grant the form-based code waiver and approve the building design for 32 East Burdick with the following conditions. Number 1, the transparency percentage of the first floor frontages facing Burdick and Mill must be submitted at 70%. Number 2, the applicant must confirm that the glass facing Burdick and Mill will be transparent and non-reflective. Number 3, a revised version of the approved site plan must be submitted showing small landscape plantings around 32 East Burdick as previously approved for 36 East Burdick and 19 Stanton. Number 4, parking lot construction will commence east of Mill Street in conjunction with construction beginning on 32 East Burdick Street and will be completed before occupancy is granted. And number 5, if a building permit is not pulled by January 2018 for 36 East Burdick Street, the developer must come back and amend the original PUD. End of motion.
I have a motion on the table.
Second.
Madam Secretary, I have a motion tendered by Commissioner Curtis and seconded by Commissioner Bama. Any other further discussion? All right, let's do a roll call on this, Madam Secretary.
Chair Douglas.
I approve.
Commissioner Helmuth.
Yes.
Commissioner Gill.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Curtis.
Yes.
Commissioner D.
Yes.
Commissioner Bama.
Yes.
Good, motion carries. Congratulations, Dave. Get busy, let's do this. It's going to be exciting. I can't wait to see it. All right, now.
And his 3 office letters.
New business is now completed. We move back to item 9, which is old business, considering signage for potential amendments. Chris, do you have a,
I have a memo in your packets. As requested, I did compare the signage from the old CO district to the C1 transition district.
hold on one second, Chris, please.
I need one too.
All right, as requested, I did compare the signage from the old CO district to the C1 transition district, so the commission can understand the proposed changes when those parcels are rezoned. Generally, as we've talked about, C1 transition is more flexible. It's got more options, more things you can do with bigger signs, etc. After having thought about and reviewed what we talked about last week, I have 2 amendments I'd like to put on the table, and only 2. One, as discussed, would be to increase the square footage of a freestanding sign in the C1 transition district from 24 square feet to 32 square feet. And the second would be to reduce the setback.
You said under freestanding signs, you want C1 transition to be what?
32.
Instead of 24?
24. Based on the experience we've had with property owners and developers along the corridor, the number of special use signs that have come in and been approved, and the idea that a 4x8 sign, which is what we would be allowing, is really not something that's harmful to the character. The second amendment that I'd like to put on the table is reducing the setback, not for the sign, but for the building, for a building to be eligible to have a freestanding sign, from 25 feet to 20 feet. And the reason for that is that the form-based code, as we just described, for portions of Washington Street requires a 20-foot landscape setback, but only a 20-foot landscape setback, and prohibits buildings from being built any further back than that, which is to say that no building could ever be built and have a freestanding sign, and that's not our intention. I think that was an oversight. So as far as sort of plugging a hole in the amendments we just approved or just moved forward to the council, I think that one is important. I don't necessarily see a reason to go below 20 feet. The entire purpose of that regulation is that we have stretches of the C1 transition district, including the building we just approved, that are set back a mere 5 to 15 feet from the roadway, and therefore really don't have space. Becker Eye Care being another example of as far as a recent development that's going to need signage soon. So those are my recommendations. You have the information you requested, and we can discuss from there.
For the freestanding, Chris, it would still be a 6-foot height maximum?
Yes. I would recommend that any increase in square footage allow an increase in width, not height.
Commissioners, any other comments or questions? How would you like to proceed, Chris?
Well, if there's consensus on these, I can draft them up in amendment form, and we can, I guess, schedule a public hearing if there's consensus, because the language will just be what I just described. It's a change of 24 to a 32 and a 25 to a 20. The public hearing would be the second meeting in June.
Mr. Schneider, you have a comment? Please state your name and address, please.
Chuck Snyder, 2681 Hadley Road, Lapeer, Michigan. I just have two comments. If you look at the chart on page 107 of the zoning ordinance for the C1 transition, it says for freestanding signs, one per lot containing a building that is set back at least 25 feet from the road. And Chris is suggesting that that be modified to 20 feet. The thing that I was going to bring to your attention is that on page 114 of the zoning ordinance, it says, the sign may only be permitted if it is associated with an existing building or newly approved building that is set back a minimum of 25 feet from the road right-of-way. Those are two very different things. So in the chart, we say it's the road, and in the text, we say it's the right-of-way. The difference between the road and the right-of-way can be 10 feet. So if we're going to say it's the right-of-way is the beginning measurement, we're going 30 feet back, not 20 feet. So my recommendation is the measurement should be taken from the road, not from the right-of-way. So the road is as indicated on the chart. The second comment I have is that we are attempting to foster development. The notion is that we are proposing that developers develop the rear of the property, retaining the front buildings that already exist. These lots are anywhere from 250 to 280 feet deep. So if we say that there's only one sign per lot, and there's already a building on the lot, in the front of the lot, that means that the building that would potentially be built on the back of the property would have no front signage, only a wall sign 280 feet off the road. So I'm suggesting that we should allow signs per building, not per lot. So if you have two buildings on a site, they would each be eligible for a sign, a freestanding sign, not one sign per lot. I mean, you can take the Glassby property. I have a lot of property back there. Well, I already have 3 buildings on the road. So anything I might build in the back of that property, none of it could have a sign. So those are my 2 comments.
Comments, commissioners?
have a scheduled public hearing on this? You said the second meeting in June?
But that's when, I think that's the next meeting we could get a public hearing scheduled for, as far as notice requirements.
Well, Chuck, I hear what you're saying. Obviously, this is a very touchy.
I have a question.
Russ, please, go
Yeah,
ahead.
Chuck, on your places of business down there on South Washington, I know you have some in the back, but if you put a sign out front, I mean, would you be stacking signs one after another? I mean, would it be kind of hard for somebody to see those signs as they're driving, or? I'm trying to picture it.
I guess it's really a function of what you build, but let's just say that you build a building and it's a long building. So there is only a building. That building might cover one lot or even two lots. So the point is though that whatever you build, it has no signage other than the sign that you might want to put on the building that's 280 feet back there. That's a long way. And you have buildings in front of it. So the only real line of vision you have is going to be the driveway, looking down the driveway, because the rest of the building would be obscured by the buildings that are in front.
Right.
So, and the thing I didn't also mention, that if you take that a step further, you fall into this thing called non-conforming signs, and that is a real morass of problems, because now the signs are considered non-conforming, and that's a whole host of issues that present themselves when they become non-conforming.
Lucky Mo's not here. I got yelled at for saying non-conforming last time.
Huh. Oh, my. Chris, do you have any wisdom to add to this?
I'm not, well, I guess, let me say this. I agree with Chuck that there's an inconsistency in the ordinance.
Yeah, we need to look at that
can
for
be
sure.
fixed. Frankly, the presence of the chart, which was designed to make the ordinance easier to use, is something I wish we hadn't done. I'm working for the building department on creating a chart based on the new ordinance and that would be handed out separately from the ordinance to developers and property owners. Not as part of the ordinance where it is adopted village law, right? It's a guide with a disclaimer saying this is a guide. So I think that this amendment is going to have to clarify which one we mean. I think it should be the right-of-way, because the right-of-way is an objective line that can be surveyed, as opposed to the edge of the road, where we're talking front of curb, back of curb. What if we're on a road that doesn't have curbs? What if the road's deteriorating? I mean, what if the road is bent? I mean, the right-of-way line is objective. It's also where we measure every other setback from. So that's my take on that. And then, as far as multiple signs for multiple buildings, I vehemently disagree with that. I think we've seen what happens when you have multiple signs for multiple buildings. Chuck mentions how deep the lots are. He didn't mention how narrow they are. There isn't really enough space to put two signs and still have them be visible. 32 square feet should allow the names of multiple tenants if necessary, and identifying the rear building if necessary. We also allow for directional signage at a driveway, which could say the 59 and a half North Washington condos are this way. It could say that. It would be a directional sign, be much smaller, along the lines of, 6 square feet or something. 2 square feet? 2 square feet. Anyway, much smaller, but allowed. And I do not see the need for additional freestanding signs. I just think they're clutter.
Well, typically what I've seen is when you have multiple businesses on a single entity, that the signs are broken up into multiple segments, top and bottom, side to side, things like that. I mean, that's, especially for a narrow lot, I think that would be much more preferable than having stacked signs side by side, which are going to be very difficult to try to comprehend as you're driving by, I would think.
I agree. And we're allowing 8 square feet of additional signage, and for properties that used to be CO, we'd be allowing 16 additional square feet, double the previous allowable square foot, which is basically a whole second sign. So I really don't see the need for a separate structure.
Any other comments, Chris?
Not at this time.
Commissioners, any comments or questions? I'd be happy to hear a motion in this regard.
I'll move to schedule a public hearing for June 20th regarding signage.
Second?
Any discussion? What's that public hearing going to be about? Are we going to consider 32 square feet for a sign and clearing up the discussion regarding setback?
And I will draft language, and if there's anything else on your agenda for the first June meeting, I can bring the language to that.
Are we going to address the idea of multiple signs on a lot?
Only if there's a consensus of the commission that we need to.
Commissioners?
Do you want that added to the motion?
No, I want, this is just discussion. I want to see if there's consensus to consider.
We already have scheduled this for first reading, so I will announce to council that not to do, because we did accept.
I think this should be done separately. Just because otherwise council's process is going to get slowed down unnecessarily. I think that the portion of these amendments that could be done jointly is the actual creation of the document. But I think that it's important to get the new ordinance officially adopted so it can be used. We're already using it. We just did with 32 East Burdick. So
You'd like us to
I would
keep
like
the
to,
first
I would
reading?
recommend, and it's council's decision, but I would recommend that council continue to move forward with what they've got and then take into account these 2 amendments if they're recommended separately.
Are you good? Adam? Consensus for multiple signs on a lot? Yes or no?
No.
Or a comment?
I think the addition of the extra square footage is reasonable, and I think extra clutter would not be very pleasing to the eye.
Russ, consensus?
I agree with that.
Gary?
I'll agree with them.
Yeah.
Mo?
I hated signs, so the fewer the better.
I hear you. Rose? Jack?
You know, when it comes to a multi-business like that, there's so many ways of doing it. Yes, a sign per building is good, but it seems that you have a sign per building, then you have a sign for upstairs, a sign for downstairs. If you have one per building, there's gonna be one sign for each building, and that's it. That's how I feel about it. If it's not gonna be one for upstairs, one for downstairs, one for over here, one for over there, because it's a garage, and one over here if it's this, there's too many signs. And again, this would only be a recommendation to the village council. The village council would have to approve it. So I think you should test the waters of the village council to determine if they want to go through this addition of signs to a rear building on a commercial lot. Because, you know, we're going to go through all this work, and Chris is going to charge, and if it goes to village council and they don't want it.
We happen to have the president here right now. Should I ask her?
It's fair.
Madam President, would you care to take a stand?
Why don't you just come to a plan?
The only reason I'm saying this is, the only reason I'm saying this is
I like stands. I like testimony.
my personal opinion should not cause the planner to engage in billable hours and have it shot down.
It's easy to do.
my opinion.
Chris just, ching. Good job, Chris.
And I'm not trying to slight you
No,
from getting
not at all.
paid.
No,
What I'm
no,
saying is,
I think
you
it
don't
makes
have
a lot of
authority.
sense. I mean,
You
if
certainly
it's-
don't want to expend money on something that's not going to pass.
If it's not going
That's
to
right.
fly, I mean, right now, there's no consensus among the commissioners that multiple signs per lot is a direction that we want to go in. And unfortunately, that's going to compel property owners and developers like Mr. Schneider to find creative ways to advertise his developments with a single sign on a lot, which is what the current ordinance reads, I believe.
So does somebody have to go to the village council then to explain what we're doing, to see if they want us to continue on this path?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so.
So we're gonna hold our public hearing on June 20th.
We have a couple of issues to discuss, at least two, which are the changes to the square footage and a clearer definition of the change in setback and a definition of the datum. And that'll be it. All right, so Rose, does that in any way at all affect your motion?
No.
Do I have a second on that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. All right, then moving on to public comment. Agenda and non-agenda items. Any public comment? Chuck, do you care to say anything? Miss Bonnie? Okay. Consultant comments. Chris, the floor is yours.
Nothing further tonight.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioner comments. Maureen?
I have nothing.
Bless your heart. Miss Rose?
Nothing?
Jack, you want to give us an update for the
Sure.
Township Planning Commission?
Water main construction's underway. The first emergency valve to the village from the township water system is being tested right now. It is not hooked up. Once the first pressure test and bacteria test are done, we'll have that first well pit put in and the connection made. The rest of the line will go in once the school closes for the summer. Lakeville Road milling is underway. It started on Monday. It's working from Rochester Road this way, and it's absolutely horrendous to get down Lakeville Road. Count on 15 minutes to go less than a mile.
Don't go that way.
Pontiac Street paving is to begin as soon as its township approved it, and the pre-con meeting is going to be held shortly. That's from Drainer to the village limits. That's approved and going to be done. And Tough Mudder, June 3rd and 4th, is right around the corner.
Okay, thank you very much. Rose, did you have any ZBA update in addition?
I don't have DDA, but zoning
No,
board.
no, ZBA.
ZBA,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's what I said.
No,
Okay. Commissioner Deek, any comments? No, sir. Russ,
I just want to-
welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Really
And-
glad to have you here.
And I just want to say thank you to the commission for accepting my application.
Of course. We're glad to have you here. Or look forward to your input. And last but not least, my dear friend Adam.
No comment.
No comments,
Are there
okay.
any really awful committees we can put Russ on because he's a new guy?
We'll think of one. And if we don't have one, we'll have to make one up for him. Because surely the new guy needs to get on a good committee.
Oh.
And then, Madam President, do you have a DDA update? No, I won't. I would never skip over you.
We had a special meeting of the DDA last Friday, and Monday at our regular meeting, we made a recommendation to hire a new DDA director, and I'm going to be talking to him tonight. So
Fantastic.
hopefully that will go through.
Good, thank you very much. Glad to hear that. All right, that being the end of our comments, I'll accept a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll move to adjourn at 8:14. Support.
All right, Madam Secretary, I have a motion tendered to adjourn by Rose Bama and seconded by both Curtis and Helmuth. And all those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Good. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Did you look at a little hard of you?
I